Hi everyone, welcome to the latest and greatest episode of Failing Up. Today I'm sitting down with Jack Kuveke, the founder of Jabroni Capital, as well as a professional ship poster. Today we learn about his experience in being a bystander to fraud, building a professional community, as well as being part of a $53 million ICO launch that all crashed and burned. Today he shares his super valuable lessons from all those experiences, and he is such a character and he's hilarious. So I hope you all love this episode as much as I do. All right, Jack, how are you?
Good.
Thanks for coming. To get right into everything before we talk about your shit posting, you originally started as a comedian, right? Or you wanted to be a comedian?
Yes, that's right.
Aspiring. Where did that aspiration come about?
I just wanted to write for South Park. I just was obsessed with like dumb comedies as a kid. Like I was Futurama, South Park, and like every unhinged comedy that came out in my childhood. And I wanted to just be a writer for comedy. So I like took stand-up classes and then was writing like bits and skits with my brother. And then I fell into tech, like it built video games and they got popular. And so I was like, oh, I can make a lot of money doing this. And I like money. So I just did that for 10 years and then was like, fuck, I want to go back to my calling.
So what made you have the idea to bring comedy to LinkedIn? Because I feel like that's such a taboo thing. Like LinkedIn is normally such a cringy platform.
Yes, it's the worst.
So how did you decide to add some spice?
I had posted seriously on LinkedIn twice, and in that process, I got like really depressed and sad and like emotionally destitute.
Every time you're about to post something, you're like, I hate myself for it, but I'm just gonna do it anyways.
Yeah. I was very desperate for money at the time because my business was not going well. Like I'd started like 6 months ago. The first 3 months I was like, I'm nailing this. I'm doing great. And then 3 months I was like, oh my God, I made like $4,000. I live in New York. I'm living like a homeless person. And so I tried writing serious stuff on LinkedIn and it was like literally the worst process ever. And it like didn't really get, like it did fine. Like, I don't know, like 40 likes or something. And so then one day I was writing something serious and doing a bunch of research and I was like, this is dumb and no one cares. So I deleted all of it. And I wrote a post saying that I had a fake VC fund called Jabroni Capital and it immediately went viral and got like 2,000 likes. And I was like, what do you know? I can. And then like for the next week, I was just like, can I keep doing this? And I just kept doing it and it kept working again and again. And I was like, great, I'll just keep doing this and see what happens. And I got like 400 DMs in one day the first time I did it because everyone was like...
I feel like it's so refreshing.
Yeah.
Because you're just hilarious. I mean,
yeah. That's what people kept telling me. They're like, thank you or whatever. Or like, I wish I could say this. It's that probably the most common.
I feel like you are sometimes saying what everyone is thinking.
Yes, I try to. Or at least I feel like I was not worried about like hurting my career. Everyone was like, this is a really bad idea. You should stop because like everyone's not going to hire you. I'm like, they weren't going to hire me anyway. And I've had like one real job in my life and it was like for a startup, which is also fake. So it was basically not a real job. So I was like, I have nothing to lose. So I'll just keep doing it.
Okay. So starting, kind of rewinding a little bit, you built Minecraft servers and you created a super strong community with those Minecraft servers. Why did you give that up?
I didn't give it up. My brother and I, so how Minecraft works is you can create your own world. We created Grand Theft Auto for Minecraft, like right when GTA 5 came out. And it got pretty popular. One day, this huge YouTuber, like when I say huge YouTuber, I mean like one of the biggest YouTubers in the world, like top 20, joined my Minecraft server. It was called, his name was Sunday. He has like 25 million subscribers now, like wildly big. He joined the server. And I didn't know who he was, but my admins were like, this guy's a big deal. And so we struck up a deal with him that we would give him like 50% of our proceeds if he continues making videos. But we're like, please wait 1 week to publish because we have like 100 people playing this game right now. If you publish, we'll get 20,000 people join in the first 5 minutes and it will tank our server. We have to literally buy a server in Austin, Texas. So we're like, please wait. He didn't wait. It crashed immediately. We made like $10,000 the first day and we're like, oh my God, we're rich. We're going to
And how old were you at the time?
15.
Oh my gosh.
16, something like that. Lo and behold, he ended up stealing our server files and making a complete copy and just ripping us off. And so I was like, well, I guess I have to go to college.
Okay. So you went to college?
Yes.
And then you dropped out, right?
I did drop out of college. That's correct.
Okay. So, and then you worked for a startup and moved to Serbia.
Yes.
So tell me that whole thing.
Yes. So basically from the second I got into college in 2015, I was like, I hate this and I want to leave, but I need a good reason to leave. I can't leave with no like money and opportunity. So in my freshman year, I found crypto of all things and threw all my money in Bitcoin and Ethereum. Bitcoin was
what price?
$300. $300. I bought Ethereum at $2, about like 150 Ethereum at $2.
You holding or what? I've
had all my money in crypto for 9 years now. Okay. So things have thankfully gone well. There's another scenario where I have like a mega yacht. Now I'm just like a decently well 27-year-old. But yeah, so I find this, I discover crypto and I find the first gaming cryptocurrency called game credits. And because of my experience in Minecraft, I was like, oh, this is a great use case for crypto. There's all this chargeback and fraud, like 50% of all the transactions on my Minecraft server were fraudulent. So I was like, if people paid in crypto, people make more money. So I like harassed the CMO on a Slack channel with like literally 12 people on it. And I'm like, I'll do anything. I'll work for free. And they didn't have any Westerners. They were just a team of like Serbian engineers and people hacking this together. So they hired me to be their community manager. And this was back before Discord, Telegram existed, and they brought me in to build this this Slack community for them. And it turns out I was really good at it. And over the course of the next like 9 months, I was making 200 game credits a month. It was 10 cents. And then over the next couple of months, we got, a couple hundred members in the Slack channel, then a couple thousand, then like tens of thousands.
And how did that happen?
Me marketing it. I was just like, I started writing press releases. They were like having me write press releases to go out like Yahoo Finance. I was doing interviews with like big cryptos. I was doing all these like different forms of grassroots marketing. I would do like live streams and get like 1,000 like random crypto
people. This was like OG before all of this was possible.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so like I'm 19 in a dorm room in college doing all this as like a dumb kid. And so from the beginning of my sophomore year, I had like $10,000 of crypto. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm a genius. I started with like $1,000 to my name, which felt amazing. And then over the course of the next 9 months, it became one of the largest crypto communities in the world. And then they asked me to run an ICO for them. And I was like, for sure I can run an ICO. I had no idea what an ICO was. So I had to like get off the call and like Google. And so I go out and try marketing this ICO in the May of 2017 then. We launch it. And in literally the first month, we become the largest cryptocurrency ICO ever. We raised $53 million, of which I'm promised like 0.5% of proceeds. And so all of a sudden I have millions of dollars.
That's sick. So you were how old? You were like what, 18?
20.
20? Okay. Yeah. You're a millionaire at 20 years old.
No, I became a millionaire the day before I turned 20.
That's exciting. Congratulations.
It was crazy. And then I lost almost all of it within the next 6 months.
Right. So what was that like up and down roller coaster like, and why did that happen to begin with?
So the up and down was like, crypto, as you know, is like mostly hype. No one really cares about technology. And it turns out like it kind of really doesn't matter. And so we became a really, really popular because of all this hype. And then we made all these promises in our white paper. And slowly over the course of that summer, after we raised the ICO, we weren't really delivering on our promises. And I was just like, why is that, guys? Things, aren't they going great? We have like literally hundreds of millions of dollars now because we raised, $53 million in Bitcoin's $1,000 and Ethereum's $40. And now the fall, winter of 2018 or 2017 rather, Bitcoin's hitting like close to 20 grand. So anyway, they were not following through on their promises. I was like, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. They offered to pay me to fly to Serbia and like drop out of college. They're like, just come. You have money. Things are going great.
But how did you balance this all with classes at the same time? Were you just
college was a joke. It was like easy. I was in a kind of a dumb major.
Okay.
I also
what was your major?
I was an economics and information technology major.
Okay.
So I just thought it was like all stuff I was really interested in. And also the bonus is I literally didn't drink or party at all.
Oh, that's
and so I was just like sober nerd the entire time just working. Yeah, no, seriously. That was the thing is if you just didn't drink, like you'd be a genius if you're in college.
And also everyone else hated you, but like
everyone else thought I was a complete loser, and I was, frankly. But I was just trying to make $1 million. It was like I was just like, I need to make money and get out of here because I hate it. I'm like, I can party later.
Mm-hmm. So you then fast forward, you moved to Serbia.
So I fast forward, I drop out of college, I move to Belgrade, Serbia. I quickly get there and go, oh no. These people are totally misspending funds. The Serbian engineers on the ground were amazing, but we had like this Russian CEO and CFO who we had like hired in to like, because they had run a big gaming company in Russia, which may also have been a scam, but which we didn't realize at the time. So we bring them in to be our CEO and CFO. They have control of our funds and they're launching like 10 new projects a year. So they're like starting new products, like they start a charity. They're going to it was the dumbest strategy of all time. And so the scope just kept increasing. And
but why did they think that was a good idea at the time? Like, what was their logic?
It was hard to figure out. Like, there seemed to be no logic. I think they were just, something I've kind of discovered is like, there's a certain brand of Russians. They go two ways, Russian entrepreneurs. They're either like the hardest working, most legitimate people ever, or they're just like fake. It's like the same thing of like rolling tanks down a street in Russia to show everyone you're powerful, but everyone's starving on the back end. It was very much that energy. It was just like everything was optics and nothing was like ever material. Mm-hmm. And so I don't even know if they realized they were scamming people. They just had convinced themselves that they were like doing the right thing.
So what was the scam itself though?
Well, the
projects,
scam, the scam was just not delivering what was promised, like raising money to do this one thing and then spending the money on a million other things while these other things you promised slowed down. And so it was becoming clearer once I got there that things were not going to go well. And there was a lot of infighting. Like a lot of the engineers were really upset. Like, we should do this. We should do what we promised. They had all their money in it. And so there was a ton of like factions that were arguing in this company. And then I'm just like the one Westerner that's there in the office. And somehow I got right in the middle of it. And I'm like representation of the people because all the community is like harassing me. Like, where are these things you promised? Crypto's now dying. Like, the market's tanked. Bitcoin's dropping really rapidly after the winter of 2018. And so things are not going well. And like, I felt a responsibility to the people that we raised money from to try and like fix it, which naively I thought I could, and I could not. And then it all kind of just exploded in my face.
So you said you tried to whistleblow, right? Was that when you got back to the US, or what actions did you take towards the CEO first?
Yeah. So I think everything kind of started crumbling because we got a 51% attack on our blockchain, which, yeah. So this was... That was no bueno. Mm-hmm. So basically what happened...
Was it the CEO?
No, so it wasn't. So it was someone that was trying to take down Litecoin, but we had a Litecoin fork, was our original blockchain. So they're practicing on our protocol. And so they only needed like to spend a couple $1 million a week to like take over a really significant portion of our mining power. And so they did that. And then we had to like, me and the blockchain engineers had to spend like 3 days updating our code and doing like a really radical solution no one had ever done before to try and save it, which we did. But then the price was just obliterated after that. Like we went down to like, we dropped like 50% and it just made things way worse. And so that was kind of the beginning of the end. So after that point, we started having these arguments of like, we're not delivering, we need to deliver. And it was very clear that they weren't going to follow suit. So then it became me and a couple of the original founders who had retired, kind of scheming on the back end with our engineering team to be like, well, let's do like a takeover of the company. See if we can like get them to give us, $10 million out of the gigantic war chest they have to deliver the promises, to create like an open source foundation for this crypto that we're working on.
But sorry, question. Why did you need their approval to begin with? Why wasn't it just majority rules? Yeah, I get it. It's the CEO.
Yeah, because they had taken control of all of the Bitcoin. So they had all of the funds.
Got it. Okay.
So they had basically, they were the primary controllers of all the money. And so we could have gone and done this on our own, but then we would be a ragtag group of unfunded group that couldn't pay engineers. And, that's how all these cryptos work, right? So we tried to do that and it went nowhere. And it was like a nightmare. There was like this penultimate moment. This is like one of the craziest things that's ever happened in my life. It's still very, very funny. So they bring me and this guy, Nelly, who's like the original founder of Game Credits, but retired. And he had given them control, but now he's freaking out because these guys are fucking it up. So they bring me and Nelly into a room and they're like, I know you guys are worried about things, but we have a genius strategy to fix everything. And we're like, okay. And so they sit us down and they're like, we're going to sponsor the first concert in space. Swear to God. So at the time, there was this like insane entrepreneur who had convinced Lady Gaga to do a concert in space and then was like getting a bunch of sponsors to do this. It would never happen. Like I was like, guys, you know how much space travel costs? And swear to God, this is all true. I don't know how. And me and Nelly are sitting there like, oh, we're going to have to kill them. That's the only way out of this. We have to, we have to kill them. That's the only strategy. Kidding. Kind of. But
no.
And so these guys would literally, their Hail Mary strategy to save this cryptocurrency was do this crazy marketing strategy and go into space. And it was at that we're like,
I just want to know why they were hired.
Dude, just they were grifters and we were dumb and desperate at the time. They had a really big gaming company that had like tens of millions of users. We're like, oh, we'll integrate with all their games. It'll be great.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we did that, we saw their games were dog shit. They lied about their numbers. They ripped us off.
Yeah.
You know,
got finessed for sure.
We got finessed real hard. I was nice. I'm also in America
Yeah.
in college in 19.
Like, what were you supposed to know?
I was like, what? I don't know anything.
So, okay, space concert. Then what happened?
A space concert, and then we go like literally immediately after Nelly walks out. He's like, I need a cigarette. So we walk up to the roof. He sits down and smokes a cigarette. He starts smoking a cigarette. And he's like looking off into the distance. We have the nicest office in Serbia, by the way, like literally the nicest, who is run by a mobster. Separate story. So we're sitting on this rooftop. He looks at me. He goes, I'm planting 5,000 walnut trees on my and imagine this is a deep Eastern European accent, speaking relatively broken English.
Okay.
I'm planting 500 walnut trees on my property right now. That's 5,000 6-meter holes. It's like, we could dump them in one of them and they would never find them. And I'm looking at him, I'm like, oh no.
Maybe I gotta go.
I'm like, oh no. He was joking. But anyway, so we go through this process. So then we just try and like literally screaming matches in boardrooms, being like, you have to fix this. Like I'm yelling at them. At one point, I'm like on the brink, like I'm on the brink of tears. Like this big fat Serbian man comes and gives me a hug. He's like, you're breaking down, buddy. You gotta get out of here. You're broken. Like this is not going well. And so then it got to the point where it's just like heated fights back and forth. Clearly it wasn't going to go anywhere. And, you know, I had control of all of our social channels. I was under no contracts. That was the other dumb thing. Like no NDAs, no contracts, nothing. So I just owned all of our social media to my personal
That was when the real shit posting began.
So eventually like it got to the point where Nelly, who's like kind of my dad there, the old founder of Game Credits, like stops and he was like, I'm going to take you to the airport tomorrow and you're just going to go because this isn't going anywhere. And you're going to leave. And I told my dad I'd take care of you. Your dad, I would take care of you. So I'm going to take you back and you're going to get the hell out of here. So then I came back and I whistle blew. I did like a whole AMA on Reddit and like answered everyone's questions about what happened. And then obviously the cryptocurrency just like tanked after that. They tried to defend it, but they're a bunch of Russian guys. Like they probably are billionaires now. And you know, there's nothing any of us could do. There's no recourse. What are you going to do? Go after them? Like,
did the U.S. government ever get
involved? No, never got involved. You know, and that was the other thing is like our cryptocurrency raised from the most, it might literally be the largest crowdfund ever. We had like 10,000 to 13,000 individual contributors. Like most ICOs have like a couple hundred and then it's mostly really large checks.
Yeah.
Our biggest check was like maybe $2 million out of 53. So it's mostly just like small, literally community, which makes it all way worse in retrospect. And so it was just like, there's no power behind this. And I think, you know, the SEC chose to go after like entities they could actually prosecute. And this is one of them where like, it's a bunch of Russian guys in Serbia. What are they going to do?
Okay.
I imagine. Or maybe they'll go after them now, although I don't know what the statute of limitations are on that.
So what did you, I guess, so many questions. What did you learn from that entire experience? If you could do it all over again, would you have done it any differently?
For sure, Z's. I think the main thing is I was just so young. I was bullied and pushed around a lot. And I don't say that in like a, oh, woe is me sort of way, in that I didn't know the value I was providing at the time. And if I did, I had way more leverage to maybe put my foot down earlier and like make sure that things were going the way that they should have before we raised money and all that good stuff. So I think it, you know, had I known what I know now and being the person that I am with the more experience that I have, I just would have been a little bit more aggressive and I would have walked away way sooner and let them, before it got too like bombastic and crazy. I just would have like preserved my own sanity and dignity and walked away.
Yeah, that's valid. And how did this experience impact your next startup, which was Huddle, right?
Right.
Okay. So tell me about Huddle.
Yeah. So I started Huddle out of a startup accelerator. I was working briefly at a startup accelerator called Antler. I was hired to run their program and marketing and all that stuff. And so I was like, I hate this. I don't want to be a VC. My friend
Why?
came. It was just, it felt, you weren't doing a lot. you're like on just calls all day long, making completely arbitrary decisions. And like most of the investments we made were in the worst companies. And then it felt like every company we didn't get money would go on and make millions of dollars within the next couple of months. And it just felt like a very arbitrary process. And I was so junior that like my opinion didn't really matter, right? So I didn't have nearly as much say as I thought I might at the time. And it was just all stupid. Like it felt like we were making bad investment decisions left and right. And it was a lot of the people that I felt like were making these decisions had literally no experience building anything. So of course they didn't know what they were doing. And so I just felt like I just walked away and I was like, this is not for me. And I also felt like I needed to go do more. I was like, I haven't done nearly enough. I had this cool experience in Serbia, got a bunch of really valuable experience at a young age, but I wanted to try my hand at building something myself. So a friend came to me, he was building like a community video product during the pandemic. And so we were literally hosting video calls for like cooks and race shop owners and whatever. And brands started approaching us being like, hey, we would pay you to host these video calls for us to engage our loyalty customers because the pandemic, they couldn't engage people. So we worked on that, raised some money. And then we went through like a million different pivots because we quickly realized that was a bad business. And we were trying to like really good at raising money, but like not good at finding product market fit. And so we just were going through like iteration after iteration on a business that frankly just wasn't real. It was like a very short-term blip business. Like it was happening only because the pandemic was in motion. And as the pandemic started to come out, it was like very clear that this wasn't going to be something that would be successful long-term. And so we were just constantly like trying to look for another business. We tried doing a learning business for a bit, doing like, okay, we're doing these live workshops for brands. What if we do them to teach people things? So we started like teaching people things and bringing in instructors to teach over video calls and build communities around learning, which was like
master course, like
yeah, kind of like live master class, like
or master class, not master.
You know, Maven, like the live course company, they were doing like these cohorts. So it was very similar to that. So we were doing that, and then Maven came out, and we're like, oh fuck, this is now they're
You're
doing.
Like, we might be cooked.
We might literally be cooked. And then doing that business, I realized that's also not it's like a lifestyle business that people are trying to package into a VC-backed business. And so we started actually making money and getting traction, but it was like, okay, we might be able to make $10 million a year, but this isn't going to be, $1 billion business. So we came to a crossroads.
So what happened towards the end? Like, how did it just end up fizzling out?
So it ended up fizzling out. There was two options. So it was either continue doing these like live learning business and build it in like a niche lifestyle business. I think we could have made, a couple million. And doing what I'm doing now, I'm like, oh, we definitely could have made money and built a real business because I'm doing similar model for my own purposes. But it was just like, I wanted to continue doing that, the live learning business, if we were going to do anything, because it was a real thing. I was like, we can make money, we can grow this, we're good at building communities, we're providing value. I see value. And my co-founder wanted to do something completely different because he was like, it's not that big enough. He wanted to build $1 billion thing. And so it's just like a lot of arguing over like, what are we going to do? And in the end, I was like, I can't argue anymore. And I'm like, I'd rather just leave and go do something else, and you can do whatever the fuck you want.
So what happened to the business after? You guys went
down? Yeah, so I left, and then so my CTO left. Then I left a couple months later, and he pivoted into doing it's basically like AI recruiting and hiring platform type thing, which I think it's still alive and hopefully working. Mm-hmm. But I have no idea. I haven't been involved in it for years.
And so where did you go after that?
So then after that, I was like, what am I going to do now? I briefly got hired by a friend to be the head of growth for a fintech company that was doing like more community stuff. So doing community investment clubs. So they like pool together 1,000 YC founders to invest in other YC companies, or, a couple hundred Coinbase employees that were going to invest in other Coinbase alumni. So creating these micro funds based out of communities. So I briefly worked with my friend on that. And I realized quickly I'm a bad employee and I should not work for anyone. And I hate doing that. And so
what's the part you hate about working for someone?
I think the part I hate about is that I like doing many different things with my time. I just work on any given day. I like going in between things, sometimes every 20 minutes. And that doesn't, like when you're like being like, hey, go just sell people all day. I'm like, well, I don't really want to do one thing only for the rest of my life or at any point in time. And then quite frankly, if I disagree with other people's decisions, I'm going to tell them like, I don't agree with us doing that. And so then it causes conflict. It's not my thing. And so like they have a vision they're doing, I have a different vision, and it's not my thing to decide what the vision is. Mm-hmm. And so I quickly realized like I have to just be the captain of my own ship. I don't know what that's going to be. But I quit and ended up just consulting with startups to help them raise money, because that was what I had done for Huddle. We had a little community that was helping startups raise money through that business. So like, I'm good at this. I've already helped a couple hundred people raise money before. Maybe I can build a consulting practice out of it. And then I spent like 7 months suffering, sometimes making money, sometimes not making money, until ultimately Jabroni Capital came to be.
So where did the idea Jabroni Capital come from?
I thought...
So why is it just such a funny name?
It's so funny.
It's just like a meme name. You know what I mean?
So it actually started... So the word Jabroni came from... When I was working at that startup accelerator, I swear like a banshee, like you probably can tell. I'm like holding back right now. And I still probably...
Thank you. No, I'm kidding.
But what I did when I was at this accelerator, I started using the word jabroni, because I was like, I call people jabronis instead of swearing. I'm like, that guy's a jabroni. And it was just my way of being like, I can still...
Where does that name come from?
So there's a bunch of different meanings. The Rock popularized jabroni. I learned this after, but it basically would be like, typically there's a couple different variations. You're either like a fall guy, which is what jabroni meant for the WWE wrestling. But there's another term, which is slang for just like, you're like a Long Island idiot finance bro. Maybe you work in a mortgage office. You wear like a Redskins shirt and yell loudly at bars. You're like, oh, that guy's a jabroni. And then when I got into tech, I was like, there's so many jabronis in tech. I'm like, it'd be very fun to just call what VCs are, which are jabronis.
And do most people know what a jabroni is? Because I didn't know what it is.
I think probably not. I think most people...
I think that's what makes it funnier.
Which makes it, but it just sounds funny.
Yeah, no, it's like a funny name.
Yeah.
You know?
And if you call someone a jabroni, it's like kind of insulting, but also kind of just goofy. So like they're not that insulted either, even though it is an insult.
I feel like because they don't know what it means, but also it's like a playful insult.
Yeah, exactly.
Calling someone a slur.
So I bought the domain Jabroni Capital years ago, because I'd be like, it would be really funny to like launch have a VC fund called Jabroni Capital. Mm-hmm. Like maybe I want to be a VC. And then I was like, I really don't want to be a VC. But then I was like, maybe I just go use the name Jabroni Capital for a stupid LinkedIn post. And then I was like, I should just keep doing this. I started a newsletter the day after I did the LinkedIn post and was like, I'll just funnel people into something and see what happens.
So you said you want it to be a media business one day. Like what's the big vision for the media business?
I think the way I look at it is that there's no like Barstool of Tech. You know, like if you have the way I look at it is like most tech media or most business media in general is really boring. Like there's no like characters, but it's an inherently funny industry. Like tech is so silly. These people are building dumb ideas. Some guys like
Forbes 30 under 30.
Forbes 30 under 30. Everyone's a fraud. Some guy just got back from Burning Man. He's trying to tell you how to live your life. Like some guy who's like, I don't drink. And then he goes and snorts ketamine and blow at a party. And he's like, alcohol's bad for you. It's like that, or he's doing ayahuasca to get like visions for his business. That's funny. And so my whole feeling is like, there should be a way to shed light on the industry. And like you can bring in other creators, other writers talking about like climate or finance or whatever. And you can build a business of people that are like doing some sort of news, but also just mainly doing like funny satire and takes on this industry.
Yeah, because I think one thing I like about your newsletter is that it's mixed in with humor and it's also informative. Like I feel like when I read the Wall Street Journal or the Economist, I'm just like, oh, okay, I'm ingesting this information, but it's just like nails on a chalkboard.
Yes.
Both yours, I'm like, okay, like memes, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I think is like, at the end of the day, we gravitate towards humor. Like the other way I think about it is like The Daily Show or Colbert Report. And that's when we, like this quarter, when we sat down to think like, what do we want to do for this year, for the rest of the year? I was like, we should think of the newsletter more like the like OG Colbert Report, OG Daily Show, where you're delivering people some amount of facts, but you're doing it in like a really silly, fun way. Mm-hmm. But people will pay attention to that. They'll like die-hard fans that will like want this content every single day. Because most people in our generation, when you talk to them, they're like, I get most of my news from The Daily Show. Or millennials always used to say that. And now people are like, I get it from John Oliver. And I think people want things to still be entertaining while also maybe learning something.
And I think, honestly, the reason why, because sports, for example, I feel like there was a lot of humor in it pretty early on.
Sure.
Yeah, Barstool, I feel like broke the seal for that. But, you know, Super Snake?
No.
It's like an Instagram account that makes fun of like LA culture and LA influencers.
Cool.
And
that's easy. Yeah.
I feel like that's super, super easy.
Yeah.
So, but I also feel like tech is supposed to be viewed as so buttoned up. and so serious, even though like everyone on the outside of tech makes fun of people inside tech.
Yes.
That I feel like maybe it was just more nerve-wracking. Even when people said it's not good, this is not good for your career and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
I think so. And the other thing is like this whole industry, and I think there's kind of this trend in general. This has been my thesis for a couple of years. I sound like a VC, like fake pretend to be one sometimes, and maybe I'm just becoming one.
The next interview you're coming on, you're gonna...
Yeah, for sure. But I think just this isn't something that's unique to me, but like I've had a feeling for a long time, everyone just craves authenticity. Like how many people, your coworkers, say the most unhinged things, funny things, like they're the reason you stay at a company, but then they're in a meeting being like, well, I really think this report is important. Like they pull away that face. It's not authentic. It's not who they really are.
Well, I feel like a lot of the companies that people work at, especially the older institutional ones, they don't encourage authenticity.
No.
They kind of encourage you to be just a robot and show
Totally.
up. Yeah.
But I think that's changing because like people are craving authenticity more than ever. We've had like the Kardashians were an era of like fakeness on Instagram and like, take a picture of like, I'm not trying to show my ass, but it's like clearly you're trying to show your ass on Instagram. It's like, that's fake. Now people want you to be like, here's my ass, just like front and center. Like they want you to just be real with what you're doing.
That's what I'm trying to do with this podcast.
No, by the way,
here's
I appreciate it. Yeah, no, that's great.
Show me
that's
your
why
ass.
you're going to win. It's a great idea. That's why failing is nice. Cause like, that's the other thing in startups is no one ever talks about failure. But like what they always act like, oh, everything's going great. Even me, they're like, well, you guys you're crushing it right now. I'm like, dude, I have no idea what I'm doing. Like I'm just on a ship that I hope works, but it could sink at any day. Like if I don't get views tomorrow, I've been banned on LinkedIn 7 times. Like, if I like things could end and then it's like, what do I do now?
But I think the trend is changing to be more refreshing. There was a portfolio company that sent us an update and it was just like the highs and the lows. And a lot of companies only include the highs. So I feel like I agree with you is that it's changing.
Yeah. A lot. Now people are putting lowlights into their, investor updates, which is, well, that's nice. I mean, like things are obviously in early stage companies like rarely going well. Mm-hmm. So like most things are bad. But it's nice to have that culture of just keeping it real. That's what my hope is, just we keep things real from here on out.
Yeah. So in terms of everything you've learned about some of your LinkedIn posts.
Sure.
I'm going to read one.
Sure, go ahead.
A founder asked me if their pitch was good enough to raise a $1.5 million pre-seed for their startup. I told them that when your parents catch you sneaking out of your house so you can drink warm Bud Lights and dry hump a stranger from history class, you don't just rattle off a string of boring facts to get off the hook. You tell compelling stories about being a sober driver to help your friend. Fundraising for startups works the same way. And then you go into how Adam Nguyen didn't raise money for WeWork because he had a good business. He's good at storytelling. How do you come up with these? Like, what's the process for how you come up with these?
I typically sit down and I go, I have to post something the next hour. And then I just like try and come up with a hook. That's a post that's trying to promote this.
Do you use GPT at all?
No, literally not at all.
Really?
Not at all.
I feel like that's the biggest trend these days.
Everyone's doing it. My fear is that I'll get lazy. And I'm the laziest person at heart. Like I just want to be like, if I was like, my dream is to be like a Roman emperor, like lounging in a chair, like philosophizing about stuff, but I can't do that. I have to work. So the point being is that if I go use ChatGPT or any of these things, I feel like it will ruin the creativity and like I won't have to exercise the muscle of like trying to get better at this thing. Mm-hmm. So I think there's ways to use it to like image generation or any of that stuff, but I just don't want to like give up on this stuff.
So how can people leverage with what you've done, like, because I feel like this is extremely overly authentic, some may say. How could, if you could advise other people and other founders, I guess, or anyone who's on LinkedIn and just struggling with posting very cringe content, even me myself, how could you encourage them to find their voice of authenticity, especially when they are in maybe an industry or an organization where it's just not really encouraged? Like, how do you find your way around that? Yeah,
I think, so you obviously don't have to be as extreme as me, and that's not even a bad post. That's me trying to promote my business. So it's like pretty watered down compared to most things.
I know. I read there was one of your newsletters. It was like, I might hire a woman next year, New Year's resolution. I was like, nice. Okay.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think the key to finding a voice on LinkedIn is like, people like stories, but if you can make the story surprising, that's the thing. It's like whenever people read something for me, I'm trying to think if they read the first line can be serious. Mm-hmm. You have like the setup, the hook. So in that case, it's about raising money. So someone is trying to raise $1.5 million, and anyone that is actually interested in raising $1 million will like be like, what is this post going to say? And then the next line is absurd. It has a point it's trying to make. So I'm using a funny analogy to get a point across, which is like, you have to use storytelling, but I'm doing it in a surprising way. And I think that's kind of the key to most to most like LinkedIn posts is like surprise people. Because if you do the thing that there's just like everyone's done a million times over, you're just gonna like fall away in a sea of like other boring LinkedIn posts. But if you do something that catches people's attention, maybe you just use a meme and you write a serious post, like surprise people at every stage of the post, and that will get you way more attention and way more views. The other thing I try and think about for my own sake, some people might not like this, so it's not for everyone, but it's like, if 30 to 40% of people hate you and 70% of people love you, you're going to do way better than if everyone loves you. Because 30% of people are going to comment being like, how dare you say this? Thinking it's real and serious.
Do you get a lot of
hate?
Because I feel like LinkedIn is supposed to be, in my opinion, maybe one of the last platforms that's more PC. I feel like Twitter turned into...
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's gone rogue.
And then I feel like LinkedIn was known to be just the platform where, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
For sure.
How do you balance that, especially, if you are someone who's employed?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say anything like canceled probably is first
I feel
step.
like you've said some cancel.
Yeah, but I'm not trying to get a job, and I work for myself. I don't care. Like, wouldn't do necessarily what I'm doing unless that you want to, in which case go for it and it'll be fine. But I think there's a lot of people out there that are doing this without like pushing the envelope so far, but they're still saying like surprising and silly things. They're still sharing like funny memes that are related to their industry. I think honestly, memes are probably the easiest way for people to get views. The podcast I did here the other week was a buddy of mine who has a whole business about making memes, and he's literally made millions of dollars making memes. So I think just like, if you are in an industry and you say surprising things, maybe throw in a couple funny memes here and there, it doesn't even have to be anything too crazy. Your boss will probably just be happy you're getting views and like churning people into your business or in their business rather. So I wouldn't overthink it too much. It's like not that big of a deal.
And what are the most valuable lessons that you've learned while building your personal brand? Well,
something that I always struggled with throughout the last 10 years was that I kind of built an audience in crypto and then I got burned, so I stayed away from it for a while. But the reality is the most frustrating thing to me in entrepreneurship the last decade has been there are so many absolute idiots that are succeeding in this world just because they have distribution. And they get up and say the dumbest, most milquetoast, like wake up early, be on time. People are like,
facts.
And I'm like,
he ate with that one.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, for sure, dog. Great. And they just say like the most brain dead things, and they have distributions. Then when they launch a newsletter or build a company, they have people to sell to, and it has allowed them to make millions of dollars. And so I think in this generation, in this world we're in, distribution is everything. Yeah. And so even if I had good content or even if I had a good business, I always lost to people who are often dumber and had worse products, worse businesses, but had great distribution. And so my greatest lesson is just like have distribution. You or someone on your business, someone on your team, acquire your own leverage that you can like distribute something to, whether it's a business or CPG brand or newsletter or YouTube or whatever. It just makes your life literally 10 times easier. And that's the world we live in now. It's like everything is just like self-managed and self-run. You don't need an agent. Like podcasts make all the money in the world. They don't have agents.
And podcasts like are replacing the news, essentially. Oh, yeah. The news ratings and views have fallen down completely.
Yeah, because you have like 5-minute segments where guys are like, well, tell me about Palestine. And it's people scream at each other for 5 minutes. And you're like, I don't think I learned anything. Whereas you can go on a podcast and listen to like I'd be like Noam Chomsky talk for like
Megyn Kelly show.
Yeah, for like 4 hours. And they'll like break down all these things. And even if they are being disingenuous at some points, you have way longer to like get information, which obviously makes more sense for delivering news.
Yeah. And also I think it falls into the category of people trust people, not brands. And a lot of mainstream media is just no longer trusted, obviously.
Well, you should tell my social media guy who's been convincing me to do a meme coin. I have to yell at him every week. He's like, look at...
I was thinking of doing a meme coin too.
Really? Because Enron, did you see the Enron
Probably won't
thing?
do that. No.
So some guy bought the Enron brand and created a meme coin. Well, we didn't know. They're like last 3 weeks, a month, they've been doing celebrity endorsements, getting hundreds of thousands of followers on social media for Enron. Like the scam company.
Oh, Enron. Wait, the Twitter?
Yes.
Wait. Yes.
They launched a meme coin today.
I thought that was the Enron account.
Yes.
That is Enron?
No, it's some guy bought Enron and created the whole ploy was to create a meme-ron, a meme coin around Enron, which is obviously a good idea, but it's still a scam, right? Like,
did they rug or no?
I'm sure they're rugging people. Like the only reason you launch any crypto, even if you're not a scammer,
Melania.
Right, like, dude, Nikita Bear's launching. Nikita's not dumb. It's what Nikita coin's going to be worth $0 in 10 years. He knows that, but it's like, well, people know it's all a scam now, and all the most valuable cryptocurrencies in the world are a scam. So might as well start one and just be like, here's scam coin. People are like, that's a good buy. I like it. Get in. So
with the idea of, like, it's clear all these people who are super successful, I think you've built a super strong community. Mm-hmm. And, Anthony, also super strong community of people around him. What are the crucial points to building that strong community? I get you need distribution, but like, I feel like you also need an edge. How do you find that edge? You have to say things other people aren't. It's like really, you can sometimes get away in like, for example, when like AI first came out, there's a lot of newsletters that started being like AI tips, 5 AI tips a day or 5 AI tools a week. And those newsletters for like the first year are going to blow up because it's new and refreshing. But at a certain point, everyone's going to be like, it's nothing new. It's nothing original. They're using ChatGPT to write the goddamn thing. Like no one wants to read it. And so then they go back to creators who are saying things that are different than other people. So you have to have like, this is going to be crazy, like unique opinions on things and say things different. I know. So like that's how Pop built his entire career is he'd go and talk about things that other people wouldn't, had like a little bit of a contrarian view while also bridging like, trying to be like not a complete degenerate to like bridge the gap for crypto. But I think you just have to have different opinions. What's your unique take on things? It shouldn't be, that's whenever I write a newsletter, I'm like, what is the opposite of whatever else is saying about this? Or like, what's the second layer or the third layer deep into this thing? And that will build more loyalty because people will be like, I can't get this somewhere else. I have to come to this person to get whatever opinion or take on things. They know it will be different and unique. Okay. And so with the growth that you've seen, what are you hoping to accomplish with the newsletter? And to make $100 million. Okay, Ideally. The super yacht's coming. That's first of all, please. That's not super yacht territory. I could buy like an okay yacht. A super yacht is $100 million, okay? Or more. So I could get like a nice boat. But no, I think what I want is, I think in the next year, we're at like maybe 65,000, 70,000 total followers and subscribers and all that. I think we can get up to a couple 100,000 by the end of the year. I want to have like 50 or 60,000 newsletter subscribers by the end of 2025. And I want to actually make money off the media side. I could now, but I've chosen to just promote my own business because that makes more money than what I could make off media. But as I continue to grow, I want to find more ways to just make money doing silly things. And your current business is helping startups fundraise, right? Yes. Yeah. So what are some of the big pitfalls that you think startups fall into when looking into VCs? A whole lot. I think the most common thing, actually, one of the like biggest reasons people work with us right now is everyone, when they start raising money, most first-time founders don't have a network, right? Yeah. And so they immediately just start reaching out to VCs, trying to get a handful of conversations. If anyone's trying to raise money and you say you have a year to prepare for a fundraise, my first thing I'm gonna tell you is like starting literally today, meet 5 founders a week. If like whenever a client starts working with me, we only reach out to founders for the first couple months because I'm like, if you just had more people that like you, and shockingly, we'll make warm introductions for you, you'll raise more money. So you could do all the effort you put into cold outreach to VCs is mostly wasted. You could do all of that effort onto building a better network. And if you do that, it's way easier. Like founders will respond. And if you win even 15% of the people you talk to over for the course of a full year, you'll have a Rolodex of founders that have raised money that can all help you make introductions to VCs, which is how fundraising happens. Like you're not going to fundraise most of the time off cold emails or, crazy viral tactics. You can, but that's like 1 out of every 50 are able to actually successfully do that. When you are a founder looking at investors, what's something that you often have to be wary for? Like I know you make fun of VCs a lot, right? So like what are some of the real red flags of VCs? Yeah, I think good VCs let you know what their process is. The first call, they're like, okay, here's what to expect.
you're going to hear back from us in a week or two. If you don't, we're not interested. But if you do, you're going to talk to another partner or me and a principal. And then after that, you're going to go to like submit a bunch of questions. And after that, you're going to go to a partnership IC meeting. And after that, then you get money. Good VCs are like clear about what to expect and here's what's going on. If you talk to someone and they don't do that, they're not taking it seriously or they're not trying to be transparent about what their process is, which is like puts all the leverage in their hands, right? So I think that's the first thing. And then the second thing is like if people make arbitrary, like you need to get to this metric. That's just an indication of like they're not interested. The only thing that'll probably convince them is hype. Like you need other people at the table to be interested for them to make a decision. Mm-hmm. Because like whenever someone tells you, oh, get $100K a month and then we'll invest, 9 times out of 10, they're just trying to distract. They don't think you'll ever get there. So it's like a fake metric that you'll never attain so they can ignore you forever. And even if you do, they'll be like, no, well, actually, your market sizing is a little fucked up. So like, I'm not interested. So you want to find people who have like, give real feedback and ideas and don't just say arbitrary things. And if someone does say something that's fake like that to you, ignore them, write them off, move on. I think so much time, founders mess this up all the time. They just spend too much time trying to court people who have no interest in them. And it's like the same thing with dating. You know very quickly if there's a spark. And if you feel no spark,
slow burn,
maybe sometimes, but like what, like you at least are like, oh, they're not ugly, right? Like there's something, you're at least interested in them to some degree, and then it like maybe like sparks in the future. I mean, in fairness,
but you know.
Yeah. My lead VC for Huddle said no to us 3 times before giving us money, and he was like, guys, I'm gonna break your hearts right now. I love you, but we're not gonna give you money. And I was like, damn. But like Chen was the man. We really liked him. We vibed with him. And it was like an authentic relationship, even though he said no. So I think you got to just focus on people that you have some sort of like connection or energy with, because otherwise you're just like throwing money or like throwing time and energy at people that will like never come around.
And as someone who's been on both sides of the aisle, on like the investing side, the founding side, the operating side, the memes side and everything, who is someone across all of these industries that you've worked in that you value your relationship with the most? And what have they taught you?
Oh, that's great. There's a bunch of people. I always like to use this example. I have a friend named Andrew Rea, who's a startup founder, and his story is awesome. He grew up as like, his dad's like a pastor in the middle of nowhere in Iowa. Like no one went to college in his family, and he really wanted to get into tech, and he just hustled his way into the business. And something really interesting I noticed about him is like from the first time I met him a couple years ago when I was briefly working at that company that I ultimately quit and decided to go rogue, he was super valuable to me immediately. Like every time I ever like posted a blog post or like tried to do something serious or like wrote something, he would read it for me, give me feedback, let me like share it online and social. But then and I realized like he was doing this with lots of people. Like the second he thought he found anyone that had like value or was interesting, he would provide value to them without the expectation of return. So fast forward, he started a company called TaxWire and came to me and a bunch of other people and was like, hey, can you make introductions for a fundraise or like help me out with a fundraise? And I'm like, oh my God, I like literally have to because you've been the man. And I think those people are the people that win in this industry, are people that they're finding talent before the talent becomes successful. Like it's really easy to just pick winners. Like everyone's trying to get Pomp's attention. He's a winner. He's already successful. So now everyone was like, well, you know what? We should talk and hang out. But when Pomp was doing this 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and didn't have a name and reputation, I'm sure there were like great people who are like, that guy's going to go somewhere. Mm-hmm. And those are the people that get the farthest in this industry because they're actually picking talent and investing in them and building relationships with them over time so that when those people inevitably do become successful, they have a real relationship with them. And then they'll get something back in return. But it's like, my whole point of saying this is like giving without the expectation of return is like the name of the game in everything. Like you do this podcast. I mean, you could be fucking famous and you should invite me on your yacht. When inevitably you have the biggest podcast in business.
Who's going to have the bigger yacht, me or you?
Hopefully it's you and I just get the invite regularly. But you just got to take chances on people and invest in people early and give without the expectation of return and you'll do way better.
I love that advice. It's great advice.
I know, believe it or not.
And my last question is, what's something you believed 8 years ago when you first started all of this out that you just don't believe now?
So even 8 years ago, I was kind of being like, I was faking it till you made it. I was just like, I would just go do things. I realized you could just go do things. Thing most people don't realize. Like a week before I was writing press releases that would get published in Yahoo, I had no idea what a press release was. And then I would like call my mom and be like, Mom, help me edit this thing. It's going out and whatever. So you can just do things. But I had this notion that most people people in chart had things figured out. And now I realize no one has anything figured out. That's been the biggest awakening is like, there's this illusion that people have like, they're sure of themselves, they're happy with their lives, they know what they're doing in their business. And I think if they do believe that, they're lying to themselves, or they know that they are just figuring everything out along the way. Because no one that's successful, if you're doing anything that's interesting, you are literally doing something new all the time. And so you're bad at it. And so you're just like fucking around and finding out. Mm-hmm. And I think that's probably the biggest realization is like 8 years down. It's like, I don't take stock in like anything I see on the internet. I just assume everyone's lives is a nightmare and like there's chaos. It doesn't mean things can't be good. But my point is just like, it's not as buttoned up as anyone thinks almost 100% of the time.
And how does that does thinking that way help you, I guess, alleviate the stress of, I don't have this figured out.
Yeah. Yeah, because like people are like, I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm like,
neither do I.
Neither do I. I don't know. What do you want from me? I'm like, I did a shit post, it went viral, and now it's my business. I don't know what to tell you. I'm figuring this out day by day.
Yeah, I do feel like the most successful people. I was talking about this with someone the other day. The most successful people are the most comfortable with rejection, and I feel like failing a million times over.
Yes,
you know what I mean. And I feel like you failed a lot. I think that's a badge of honor.
Oh yeah, I always say like years ago. I would tell people like, well, Jack, you're a startup founder, you're 23, you're doing it, you've raised millions of dollars. And I'm like, every year I start 100 Google Docs with different ideas. 90 of them do not survive past day one. 6 of them make it like a couple weeks. 1 of them turns into maybe something. That's like 100. And then most of them just die. Like, and that's just life. You just start something, you have an idea, it doesn't go anywhere. Just don't think about it. It's just like, it doesn't matter. It's just like I'm going to try a million things. And the second I find momentum, I'll just chase it.
Just do it.
That's it.
Just do it.
Thanks, Nike.
Always. So how can people support you? Where can they find you? All that stuff. You can find them all over LinkedIn, first of all.
Yes. So subscribe to Jabroni Capital, Jabroni Capital on Instagram and LinkedIn or whatever. Follow our stuff. But just subscribe to the newsletter. That's like the thing I care the most about. I put the most effort into it. Everything else is like,
why should people subscribe?
Because it's funny.
True.
That's it.
True.
It'll make you laugh.
It does. And it also gives you information.
Sometimes. But it gives you information. Listen to her. She's selling me better than I do.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming. And I look forward to hosting you when you are going to be acting as a VC.
I can't wait. I'll buy a Patagonia vest just for it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Claire.